Hey everyone, welcome to the 5-1 Volleyball Podcast, the best place on the internet to follow the world of men's professional volleyball. Joined again, we missed last week, but we're back. We're back at it with Everett Delorme of Volleyball Source. Everett, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Dan. Thank you very much. Really excited. The fact that we have just like one small little weekend off from volleyball after the Champions League last weekend, and then the VNL gets kicked off next week. But stoked the VNL is getting kicked off. Stoked to be talking to you today, and yeah,
The one weekend of like the entire year where there's no volleyball.
pretty much.
If you guys want to hear my opinions and my thoughts on the Champions League finals, because if you listen to the preview last Friday, you can check out the 9x9 that I did with Everett and Rob St. Clair last Tuesday. So you can find that on any podcast feeds or also on the Volleyball Source YouTube channel. So check that out if you want to hear my Champions League thoughts, because I'm like mentally in national team season now. And that's what we're going to focus on today with Volleyball Nations League happening.
Mm-hmm.
Everett and I are going to break down our rankings 16-1 of all the men's teams. I have a few questions for you, Everett. See your thoughts. And yeah, it's going to be a good podcast.
Stoked. Let's get into it.
All right, yeah. So let's start right now. Let's go bottom to top. That's why we'll make you guys wait for the Brazils and Polands of of this podcast. But Everett, let's do alternating. I'll go first with my number 16 team. I divided into 6 tiers as well. In this bottom tier, tier 6, my first team is China.
Yeah,
Not
same.
too surprising. Yeah, okay, China at the bottom. And my question for you is, Everett, is like, who's even on this team? We haven't seen them play in years. This might be the least we've known about a World League team, like going into World League, like almost ever. It's been like, what, 3 years since we've even seen them compete? It's crazy.
And like even for me too, like I can never remember a time ever where I was just like, oh yeah, I want to watch China play randomly. Like I watched China play when they play Canada. That's pretty much it. So my knowledge of China in general is very minimal. I mean, I think they got in. We all know how they got into this tournament. At the end of the day, the FIVB Volleyball World, they are businesses, and apparently China is very, very good at that. And obviously they do have an extensive legacy on the women's side as well, and the men's team has been good in the past, right?
Right.
But yeah, there was better choices if you wanted to bring in a team just for pure competition.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that China is going to be able to provide any. I mean, we may be surprised. Who knows what they've got cooking up over there. But I mean, is Zhang Xuan still on the team? Is your boy still kicking around?
Zhang Xuan is on the roster, and I know where you're going with this, because I think Zhang Xuan's a legitimately very good volleyball player. He's a bit of a VNL darling, but I think I wish at some point he had played overseas, because I think he could hang in pretty much any league in the world. So they have Zhang Xuan, they have Zhang Zeja, who I wish like China could loan to Japan, because he's actually a pretty solid middle blocker. They have a few decent players, but pretty weak on the outsides. That's always to me been their biggest weakness. Like actually all the other positions are surprisingly okay, but just like the outsides cannot hang at this level.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm going to be interested to see how they do, but I do think that they're going to be down at the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. Who do you have at number 15 here, Everett?
At number 15, it hurts me to do this, but I'm going to put Australia down in number 15.
Okay. Can you tell me why?
I don't know. I think that even though they get back Thomas Edgar, it's been a while. I know he did put up some good numbers in Japan, but the VNL is not Japan, right? Like it's a much higher level. We haven't really seen much from Australia the past few years. They've always been able to like squeak out a few wins here and there, but that was always a Mark Lebedew led team. And no shade
Right.
to Dave Preston. Oh, DP's gonna murder me if he hears this one. Obviously, no shade to Dave Preston whatsoever. There's no one who's a bigger Dave Preston fan more than I am. I wanted to play with him when I was a kid, but I don't know how much he can do for this team in like not even a year, right? This is like it's such a bang bang thing. It's like, hey, let's go, like, hey, how are you? How you doing? This is who I am. This is who you are.
Yeah.
And then we jump right into VNL, right? So he's not he doesn't really get he's not going to have much of an impact on that team. And if there's one thing I know about Dave Preston is that, a lot of his work is done at practice, behind the scenes in the game planning. He's, a decent game manager, but that's not where his strength lies, right? So I don't think he's going to have enough time to put any of his touches onto this team before VNL starts.
And that's all volleyball coaches to a certain extent. There's game management in volleyball is less impactful than sports like basketball or football. Ultimately, there's not too much of an impact you can have in the actual game. But yeah, very, very interested to see how he does long term with Team Australia here. Team Australia, though, I mean, like you said, they have Thomas Edgar, but we've had him on the roster before, and he's like maybe played 1 match, 2 matches. So, and they do have Lincoln Williams, who's probably their second best player other than Edgar, if not their best, who's been doing really well in France the last couple of years. Legitimately very good at opposite. Then you have Mote, of course, and Perry in France and Germany and France respectively. But yeah, then you start going down the roster. Of course, we have our Canadian guy, James Ware, who played, where do you play?
Brandon.
Brandon, yeah. But my question for you, Everett, like these guys are solid, but who's like, what? I feel like we've been waiting for the last 5-6 years. Who's the next Australian prospect? When are we going to see another highly rated prospect coming about Australia? Ever?
Oh, I really don't know. Like they've had a few good Canadian guys recently, like Hamish Hazeldine here, number 14. Okay. He's a guy who's been playing for Calgary. I mean, I think Lincoln Williams is still pretty good, right? Like I don't even know.
Yeah, but he's my age. He's 28. You're not a prospect anymore.
I really don't know, and that's it's hard to say. It's really tough to say. Yeah, I really don't know any of these Australian guys, and I can't really think of any guys who have made any type of impact at the pro level.
Yeah, so we'll see. We're still overdue. Hopefully, like there's a guy on this roster who will impress us. I'm really hoping there is for Australia because I know they have excellent athletes, but. Anyway, I actually had Australia a little higher than you. I had them at 14.
Okay.
I'm a believer in Dave and Lincoln Williams because I had the Netherlands at 15. Those 3 teams are in my bottom tier. Because I just don't know how much Namir Abdelaziz is going to play in this tournament. He's on the roster, but I kind of suspect he's going to skip at least one of the legs, and I don't. This team without Namir Abdelaziz is just there's not a lot going on.
I mean, they've got some pieces.
Yeah, but this is a. I mean, who? Okay, who? Tell me.
I mean, Stin Van Tilburg.
Yeah, he's all right.
True. He's all right.
Van Tilburg.
See, this is like.
Where did Van Tilburg even play?
You still have Thijs ter Horst. You still have Martin van Garderen, right? Like you still have. No, but but we're comparing them to like Australia.
Yes.
I would, I think both, ter Horst has still got it, but so does Van Garderen.
Is he gonna play a lot? Ter Horst is what? Like he's got to be in his mid-30s.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I still think personally I still think that the Netherlands has more quality top to bottom on their roster than Australia does. I think Australia has a few nice pieces, like Lincoln Alexander, and they've got a few guys who can play at that level, but then the quality drops off pretty quickly. I mean,
do you think Lincoln Williams, other than Namir, would be better than anybody on the Netherlands? Got to think about this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I wish Wouter Termat was on this Dutch team, because then it'd be a completely different story, right? Because then you've got like another.
He's awful on the national team. We make this joke every time. He's like a club monster.
Is true. on paper he is pretty good, but I mean, like, I don't know. So like you get like Michael Parkinson, like guys like Michael Parkinson, like. There's pieces there. I believe in the depth system.
You didn't mention one guy that probably my favorite guy I'm going to watch on this roster. He was a bit of a VNL star last year and had a decent season in Turkey.
Who's that?
Benny Twinstra. Still very young.
Okay, yeah.
21 years old. He's a piece, and that leads me into my question.
I'm pretty sure he's the son of a Dutch legend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, what's your
Well,
question?
somebody in chat maybe tell us. Okay, the Netherlands. Can they put together a team around Namir before he says peace to the national team for good? Because you got Tweensters 21,
You know what? I'm gonna say
but
yes.
I
I'm
mean, actually,
I'm
the male plaque actually had a solid season in France, I believe.
I'm going to say yes. I think that
Okay.
the Dutch have a good development system. They've got a decent domestic league. Like there's a few nice pieces in there. Like Hergis is all right.
All right.
Um and what's the level that we're talking here? Like is it going to take them to a
Like top 10 world championships like they finished in the 2018? Or is that just like a completely one-off thing?
I could see them doing it with a nice,
Okay.
a
But who's
nice.
going to set? Is it going to be Wesley Kiemink? Is it
Yeah.
gonna, I mean,
Give the ball to Kimmich. See that's the thing is that like
I was going to
it's
say Heis von Solkema. It would be my pick, but he's, I was high on him earlier, but he hasn't improved in the last like 4 years. So
okay. So, but this is the why this VNL is so exciting and enticing, because like last year's VNL is almost kind of a write off with everything going on, and so this one, it was the leading up to the Olympics, so everyone was gearing up for just that one year. Whereas this VNL, people are going to be going into the closet a little bit more. People are going to be figuring things out, right? Because we've only got the 3 years until Paris. So I think that's why I think this VNL is going to be very interesting, because different teams are going to be different with working with different lineups to figure things out. Like I think there's some like decent young talent here on this Dutch squad.
okay, but I agree. But I feel like the teams in the upper sections can go into the closet a lot easier than the Netherlands.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
The Netherlands closet is not very. There's not very much in there,
I'm
which is
still
a shame.
I'm still
I feel like
comparing
people
them.
don't realize that the Netherlands is a lot like the U.S., where women's volleyball is like really popular, really dominant,
Huge,
and
massive.
men's volleyball is probably, other than the USA, is probably the country where it's like the biggest gap, even bigger than Canada, I would say.
Rob is in the chat right now saying that Namir should set himself.
He should. I think it was on the 9 and we're like, okay, if this team had Namir at setter and opposite, that would be like 8 places higher in the rankings.
Okay, so this is like I saw Namir set in person back in like 2013 in Quebec
Cool.
City, but I can't remember if he was any good.
Yeah, but you're thinking you have 2 Namir serving twice now. That's where I'm in. And
Ooh, that is true. That is true. You will have Namir serving twice. So that is a good one.
All right.
But yeah,
Let's move on from the least interesting tier here.
yes.
We can have some of these more ongoing conversations as we go up. So that was my tier 6, those 3 teams. So I'll start off with tier 5. These 2 European teams are put together, and the first one I have here is Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm.
And I inadvertently kind of revealed which player I'm going to talk about before. Alexander Nikolov. Unbelievable. Like, best player in NCAA already. Beating as a freshman. I think he just turned 18, like right before the championship game. Great talent. Is for those of you who don't know, that wasn't his first showing up to the international scene. Bulgaria actually came second at the U19 World Championships last year, if you remember, losing to Poland 3-0 in the finals. Which, second at the World Championships is a huge deal. So this is a really, really good generation of Bulgarian players coming up, spearheaded by Alexander Nikolov. But my question is, can they stay in the Nations League long enough for this generation to come? Because they're in a weird gap here where it's like Sokolov's probably not going to play. They got Yosifov, all these really legendary Bulgarian players not playing. Can they hold on as a non-core team long enough for these like 18-year-olds to get good enough to play?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have a bit of a gap bridger there with Rado Parapunov, right? Yeah. I think Rado was going to be able to be their guy. I think he had a pretty good VNL last year.
And Tanisov still. I would say Tanisov is still better than Parapunov if he plays.
Yeah. You're absolutely not wrong. But you can have both of those guys, right?
Right.
Still on the court. And you still have guys like Grozdanov down in the middle who's been having a few
Right.
pretty good seasons in Italy recently. So, you know what? I actually kind of like this Bulgarian roster. I do think that they're a little bit young. I think we'll see how it goes. Is Sokolov on the roster?
I don't think so.
No, he's not on the roster at all. I mean,
But like you said, give Parapunov a chance, right?
100%. Ride Parapunov and see how it goes. You know, I think that Bulgaria is going to be another team that is going to switch things up.
Yeah, they're in a down period right now, but they're definitely going to be on the come up. I actually like they could. This is where I think they're going to finish around like the bottom, but there's a reality where they do finish like quite a bit higher in my opinion. If these guys start like really figuring it out.
So the bottom three in my mind are pretty much set.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
you've got Australia, the Netherlands, but even the Netherlands, I think, depending on if Namir plays and the type of numbers, you know, like he led the VNL in scoring last year. So the Netherlands could surprise a few people, right?
Yeah, if Namir is like really playing at that level again,
like Canada included, like Canada is in a very risky spot this year for VNL. But the next tier of teams is really like there's going to be a lot of movement amongst those teams.
Yeah. So moving on from Bulgaria, do you want to go next? Who did you have? You had Bulgaria around here as well, or higher?
No, that's where I had Bulgaria.
Okay. So who's next for you, Everett?
Next for me is going to be Japan.
Ooh, okay. A little lower than I had.
No. Sorry. I take that back completely. It's going to be Iran.
Also, okay. Also a little lower than I had them.
I think Iran is like they're going through some changes right now, specifically in the setter position. Right, and this is going to be the first time we're going to be seeing this team without Maroof. And when we've seen them without Maroof in the past, there has been some shakiness, right? So I know they had that transition year last year, but I'm very interested to see. And I know that this young Iranian generation is very good, right? They had some really good runs at the World Championships coming up. Didn't they win one of them?
Yeah, they won U21 World Championships. Not this past edition, but the one before that.
Yeah.
So
they're up there with the best teams in the world. I just think that once again, like Bulgaria, they're going to be a little bit young and a little bit transitioning. And to be honest, I just couldn't bring myself to put Canada this low.
True, but yeah, okay. So I agree. The setter is a big question because we have the only guy that we really know about who's been setting overseas has been Javad Karim, who played for Mosaic, but I believe he didn't even start most of the year for Mosaic. So if there's any Belgian fans that want to confirm that, I believe he got knocked out by Liam McCleskey, I believe, a Belgian setter partway through the year. Anyway, that's a big question mark. Even when I have seen Javad Karim play, he's not even like 40% of what Maroof was. However, I think they just have so much talent on the wings between like Emir Esfandiar, Saber Kazemi, just like all the different players. They have Emir Tukte in the middle. Like they've got some really extremely athletic. Abadapor, of course, on the outside. Like their wings are like up there with some of the best in this tournament. Yeah, but the setter is a huge issue. It's the most important position for a reason. Like it's tough to come back with a bad setter, but at least you have these super athletic guys who can try and bounce your bad sets, right?
Yeah, exactly. So and the thing is, another thing too to remember about Iran is that the majority of their league is like happens in a bubble, and we don't really know what happens in the Iranian league. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Rob's in the chat going hot take. Yali is their best opposite. Yali Porya.
Better. So yeah, I guess it's between Porya Yali, Sadat, and Kazemi. I don't know if I agree with. I think Porya Yali is actually probably the worst one out of those three.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see what Sadat could have done this year had he not gotten injured.
Yeah. Okay. So there's Iran again. I had them a bit higher than that because I had this team below them. This team in my tier 5 is Germany.
Okay.
Obviously, a very like storied volleyball country, had some incredible players over the years, but it's just like okay, Germany actually might have the most players on this roster. I'm like I have no idea who they are. Maybe you have an idea better because of these guys playing in the Bundesliga. But I feel like Germany's in a similar position to Canada. A lot of potentially good players here, like Linus Weber, Tobias Krick, Florian Krejci, Moritz Karliczek. But like, who's that next star? Because I don't think any of those guys are good, but it doesn't seem like any of them are standouts. Like none of those guys are going to be the top player on like a strong Olympic team, right? So who's is there anyone on Germany that you see with that kind of star potential here?
There's one guy that I have been kind of aware of from coming from Germany, and that's Peter Tim. And if I'm not mistaken, oh no, never mind. Maybe it is, because one of the no, maybe that's not it. I do know that Grosjer's little brother, Tim Grosjer, has been pretty nasty the past few years.
Tim Grosjer,
yeah. So that's one of the few guys, and I thought Peter Tim would be for him, for example, but I don't think that's
and even Linus Weber, like he was not as good maybe, and he's still young, but he wasn't as good as I necessarily expected him to be. But in Milano,
I still think if you put this like the top end of this roster together, like Jonas Tilly is playing for what is it, like Saint Nazaire in France this year. They were expecting to get promoted last year, and they ended up losing to Plessis Robinson. So and he had already signed his contract, so he was there. But he's like a solid Bundesliga guy. You still have Christian Fromm, Moritz Reichart, Karl-Heinz Morczek. Like you've got guys there. Like Julian Zenger had a pretty good season at Trentino, can kind of hold things down for them. Yeah. You still got Jan Zimmerman, who played decently with Padova. Linus Weber put up some decent numbers at times, right? So
I feel like these guys are just so mid tier though. Like there's no, they're solid. They're fine. They're not going to get blown out, but I don't see them hanging top to bottom with some of the teams I have above them.
They don't have a guy, like they clearly miss that that Grosjer effect, where they have a guy that they can just like give the ball to and just shovel a whole bunch of volume to him, and he's going to be able to produce points, or someone who can bully teams from the baseline. They just don't have that guy anymore.
I think the serving is probably my biggest worry for them. Like there's not a lot of like sided offense, blocking pretty solid, but this from the baseline is like I don't see any like plus servers on that team really. Okay.
One thing that will be interesting, and this is all credit to Rob in the chat, who also says
Rob's on fire today.
He is on fire in the chat. Come on, boys, you don't have to fake like you know anything about this German team. Stop butchering their names and move on. But he does. But we do need to bring up Coach Michael Winiarski, who is coming in. So that will be an interesting new era, kind of moving on from Gianni.
Fair enough, Rob. All right. Okay. Moving on to next tier, tier 4. So I had Iran in this tier, and then I'm gonna guess you had Canada around here as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, you had. Yeah. Okay. You had them higher?
Pardon? No. Like probably around here. As much as it hurts me to put this team kind of this low, I just think that there's going to be a lot of learning happening. Yeah. Right, and that there's going to be some players who are going to not take a back seat, but I'm sure there's going to be like we're not going to have Hogue and Mar out there for every single game. Like Lepke is going to have to run the show. Like someone else on the left side is going to have to jump in. Like Ketrazinski or Neves or someone is going to have to jump in on the right side, and Sclater can't get all those minutes. I think that we're going to be seeing all three setters get a chance to go. Okay. So yeah, I think that this team has a lot of potential and is going to be able to pull off some good wins, but I also think that a lot of learning is going to be happening, and like losing guys like Gord Perrin and Graham Vigrass is going to be
vacuum to fill.
Is a big vacuum to fill, right? We also, like, to be honest, like we don't know how healthy Blair Band. Oh, like we don't like Blair Band isn't there. So we've got like we've got a rookie libero who's never played internationally before. Like we don't even have Stephen Marshall, right? So unless we're taking one of our 3 left sides to play libero, like someone on the court is probably going to be inexperienced in serve receive. And I'm seeing in the chat from Basil that Louis is supremacy. I do think that Justin Louis, and I've been touting Justin Louis for a long time. He's
for years.
literally for years. I remember watching him when he played for good old Uncle Mike for Durham Attack as a 14U, and he won a provincial championship for Durham Attack as a 14U, and like I knew then like that this kid would be good. Just like his ability to read the game has been so good for so long, but I do worry about his physicality at this level. Right, like he's not the biggest, strongest. He is a libero, but like there's a huge difference between getting like Spincers coming at you in the NCAA compared to stepping straight into to VNL.
Well, those guys, they play with Moltens. It's easy to pass them Mikasa Spincers compared to the Moltens.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but yeah, I just think that as much as it hurts me, here's the thing: I just don't want to be out here just like touting Canada and being like we're gonna be so great.
There's a first time for everything.
I'm taking a bit of a different approach this year.
Set the expectations low, and you can only be impressed.
Yeah, I am excited to see what comes from this team, though. I think we're going to see a lot more Lepke, right? And that's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of Lepke and Mar. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two work together. We're going to see, the start of Derek Epp as well, who just signed a new contract with Set. So there's going to be some good things going on.
And no Shawano, but okay. Everett, my question for Canada before we move on here. You mentioned there's lots of players here that are hyped up, maybe in very niche Canadian volleyball communities, but there's certainly some hype around these guys. Guys like Eric Lepke, Justin Louis, Xander Ketrzynski, Finn McCarthy, Derek Epp. Those guys are solid, but are any of them actually, can you see any of them starting on an Olympic medaling team?
Yes. Not all, but some.
Which ones?
I think definitely Lepke and Epp have that potential. Ketrzynski is in there. Well, like actually no, all 4 of them, right?
All right, so all 5.
All 5. Who's the other? Ketrzynski, Louis, Epp, Lepke,
McCarthy.
And ooh, that's a bubble. That's a bubble guy for me.
Okay.
So
we got 4 of our starters and 1 bench guy.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't see, to be perfectly honest with Finn McCarthy, I don't see where he fits in there. He's a bit of an undersized middle. So can he play at this level? How many undersized middles can we have between Demyanenko and McCarthy and how, right?
I thought McCarthy was like 6'8".
He's 6'7" on the roster type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have one more team in my tier 4 here. Another Asian team, Japan.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I think is going to look mostly the same as last year's roster, just substituting Masahiro Yanagita for Ron Takahashi. Last year, did Yanagita even play? Anyway.
Remember.
Ron Takahashi, Yuji Nishida, Yuki Ishikawa. You guys probably all know them. The big 3 stars of Japanese volleyball. All 3 excellent players, by the way. Especially, Ishikawa has been absolutely unreal the last couple of years. I feel like we're just telling the same story with Japan, though, every year. Great wings. Great, they play a very unique kind of game. They play very fast. Excellent setting. Excellent ball control. But the blocking is not there. And Everett, my question for you, like this is the same story every year. When is Japan gonna have like a middle that's even close to VNL quality?
I really don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen, and it's really too bad because I do. As much as I harp on the amount of attention Japanese players get, I do love their style of volleyball. It's such a pure style of volleyball. However, it does hinder them by the fact that their middles just aren't up to par, right? Because so much of volleyball is driven by the middle. It's the most underrated and maybe most underrated like position in sports. You have to do so much work and so much depends on you, and yet you probably aren't going to put up big numbers, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough. I really don't think that they need like a dominant middle. I don't think they need like a guy who's going to be able to battle with the 7-footers, but they need someone who's going to make like put up a block, be able to close blocks quickly, get some hands in some faces, be a threat offensively, and more so than in a in system play scenario where you've got all 5 attackers committing. And I'm going to the middle because we're freezing the other team's middle, and I know that's a 1-on-0 or like a late 1-on-1, right? I bonafide a guy that that like we can set him, and the other team knows we're going to set him, and he's still going to score, right? And that's mostly I see where they miss. I actually think their blocking is kind of decent. Like they close blocks pretty quickly, but they just don't put up a big block. But I think sometimes closing the block is better than putting up a big block. But their lack of offensive tenacity in the middle and just offensive awareness whatsoever in the middle really hurts them.
Unless you're playing Hakuri, who's a monster attacking, but obviously cannot block anything. So why do you think that is? Do you think like the culturally they just place too much emphasis on like the ace, like the star outside hitter? Because they have a couple. Japan has decent tall athletes. Like I have Rui Hachimura and Yuta Watanabe in the NBA. Like they're producing tall athletes. Like do you think it's a cultural thing? Do you think it's a training thing? What's just not enough tall people and they all go to basketball?
Yeah, probably that. Yeah.
Like
at the end of the day, basketball is still. Sorry, Rob's yelling at me at the chat, and I'm trying to read it at the same time. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's probably just not that many tall people, and the pull to basketball is way more. You probably get paid more for basketball. There's the allure of going to the NBA, much like the same thing here. But yeah, it is interesting that we're not getting that many quality guys. But like, what does the rest like? Are Yuta and Rui are those two the outliers in the Japanese national basketball team? I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure either. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
all right.
Yeah, I don't really know.
All right, so let's move on to the next tier, and like now we're getting into tier. Probably these are kind of like playoff teams, in my mind. And the team I had at the bottom here, shout out to Rob in the chat here, the Team USA, who I put as in the playoffs, but at the bottom, of course. Team USA still extremely talented players, still some of the best players per position at the tournament. The guys like Shoji and Christensen, but again, my only worry is. And TJ DeFalco, had an incredible season with Ulch, and I think he could definitely be one of the better outside hitters in this tournament. No Taylor Sander, of course, we all know his story. No Matt Anderson, no Max Holt. Fair enough on those guys. Can't knock a guy for missing this tournament. But like if Micah Christensen decides, I'm not going to play Eric Shoji, okay, I want to take a break. Like, can Team USA hang in the game without like those top few guys?
Yeah, I think they can. I still think like without Michael Christensen, I think Michael Christensen is obviously the big key to this. I do think that Josh Tuaniga stepping in can do a decent role. I think we're going to be able to and let's remember Josh Tuaniga has been with the U.S. national team for a long time, right? He was the starting setter for the team at the Pan Am Games back in 2015 in Canada, right? So Josh Tuaniga has been around the block, and he's been around this team for a long time. So I still think he can do a decent job. And on the left side, I think that they've got an interesting thing going on where you've got both DeFalco and Jayski who are coming off pretty good seasons. Right. I really rate Jayski's season at Milano. I think he did he
had a great season.
Yeah, sure. I think he did a really good job. And then you have the potential Aaron Russell redemption arc, right? And we saw glimpses of it at the end of the playoffs, he had that 33% point performance in the quarterfinals. So I do think that Aaron Russell still has that ability to kind of carry a team and be back to one of the best hitters in the world like he was back in the 2016 Olympics. So you've got those three guys that can really lead the way for you. Obviously, the right side is going to be a big question for them.
Everett, you're forgetting one thing about the outside hitters, though.
What's that?
It's a John Speraw team, and Garrett Megadootisha is on the roster, which means we're going to have Garrett Megadootisha playing 70% of the outside minutes.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't know how year after year Garrett Megadootisha gets into the roster, but he does. But I'm just thinking that, like, where was he playing again this year? Was he in Poland? No
idea.
Yeah, I can't remember where Megadootisha
okay, keep going. I'll look it up.
But like, yeah, he just doesn't really do it for me, you know? And hopefully like all three of those guys, like even Aaron Russell, despite not having like getting a lot of minutes, like still playing in Italy this year. Obviously I'm going to rate that way higher than Megadootisha. So
Megadootisha played in Egypt.
What are we even doing here? You know, like geez, you have three like international guys, like hell, like even Cody Kessel's playing in Germany, right? Like even he's playing for Berlin. So, I mean, like I guess we'll see. I think the real question is, for me, is like what's going to happen on the opposite. Like, are you going Kyle Russell or are you going to go Kyle Ensing? It's going to be the battle of the
I like
Kyles.
Russell. I like Russell personally.
100%. I think you know, like he's been putting up some good numbers in Korea for the past few years. Ensing's playing in Israel.
I'm on the Russell. I think Russell's better. But if you guys want more detailed Canada and USA VNL breakdowns, if you're listening to this on YouTube, on the Volleyball Source YouTube channel, Everett, you and Rob did some pretty detailed breakdowns there. And so yeah, Volleyball Source YouTube if you want super North American VNL roster breakdowns. All right, let's go on to my next team in my fringe kind of playoff tier. I put Serbia here. Usually a pretty strong team, however, missing a very key player here, arguably their best player over the last few years, Uroš Kovačević, not on the roster. And for me, like the only guy in the roster, there's two guys who could potentially replace him, Milan Kadic and Nemanja Petric. And Petric is obviously a volleyball legend, getting really old though. Like I can't believe he's still suiting up for the national team. Good on him. But also the Serbian national team's funny. Like those guys are actually like best friends off the court. Like I feel like that's like half the reason they go to these tournaments, just to play cards after the tournaments and sit around, smoke and drink and play cards until 3 a.m. Anyway,
they do like to party as we found
pass
out at
that
VNL
aside.
2019.
Of course, they have the monsters in the middle, Sreko Lizanac and Marko Predrashin. However, we just saw those guys get beat up a bit, both in the Superliga and in the Champions League finals. However, they've done pretty well against any non-Robert Landy Simone middle blockers.
And hey, no Robert Landy Simone in VNL, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they're fine. My question, Everett, like Kovačević, who's going to replace him on this roster, in your opinion?
I mean, like you said before, like Petric, Katic, like those are probably the two guys that they're going to go. Obviously, Marko Ivovic is going to be getting some numbers, some minutes as well too. I watched the Serbian league even less than I watched the German league, so I couldn't tell you who some of these guys are, and hopefully we learn. It's going to be interesting to see how much Alexander Antanasievich still has in the tank. We'll see how that goes. If not, Dusan Petkovic is known to pop off.
Bozidar Vučićević too, but all these guys are opposites. So
yeah,
Serbia hasn't been doing too well on the the European youth scene or the international youth scene. Like there haven't been any Serbian teams finishing top 5, 6. So could be a bit of a weak period after, of course, an incredible generation of players that are currently 28 to 35.
And I think you see that oftentimes where if you have such a dominant generation that goes on late, that generation underneath never really has the opportunity to grow. So maybe that's kind of what we're seeing with Serbia. And
I think there's just not the talent there, because you see in countries like Poland and Brazil, and Italy, there's just generation after generation of good players.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But obviously Serbia, a much smaller country than those, it's really tough to generate that many. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised with Nikola Jokic winning back-to-back MVPs if every tall Serbian kid was like, get me to the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next team in tier 3, I had Olympic bronze medalists Argentina.
Yep, I agree with that.
Who I'm not as familiar with a lot of the European teams, of course, having lived in Europe and followed European stuff very, very closely, extensively. Over the past couple of years, didn't get as much familiarity with the Argentinian team.
It's because they all play in France, and you don't watch anything from France.
That's also true. I do like a couple of guys. Augusto Lozer, Mateus Sanchez, Luciano Polanski. Some really good players here. Is it time, Everett, for the next gen takeover?
Yeah.
Is this the tournament where, Conte's not there, Soleil? Is it time for those guys to give it up, give the guys like Dinani, Polanski?
Well, I mean,
Sanchez,
Conte is on this roster.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Soleil isn't.
Okay, so maybe I got those mixed up.
So yeah, I do think, but when you talk about some of the best like junior programs in the world, Argentina is always up there, and they have such a good system at producing. Yes. They've got the German practicality with the South American flair. Right, so that's a good way of putting it. They got the best of both worlds there, right? So, yeah, I do think that they have quality throughout their roster. Now, of course, to everyone else, it's going to seem like they're going to be taking a step back, right? Because they're like, are they consistently a top 3 team like we saw at the Olympics? No, right? But they have that ability, like they have such a high end. But yeah, I mean. Is Uriarte on this roster? I don't think so.
I'm really okay with Mateus Sanchez setting the entire time personally.
Oh, but he's just such a blocking liability. I know he's a magician with his hands, and I know he can.
I know, but I'm talking about as me like watching.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. He can dish like such sweet.
You get to see
butter.
Amazing sets on one end, and you get to see outside hitters bouncing OT on the other end. It's perfect.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It is pretty nice. Yeah, I do. Like, I think this team has the possibility, like, I'm interested to see how Bruno Lima does, right? Because this is a guy that popped off at the Olympics. Can he reproduce that? You do have Federico.
He's been one of the leading scorers in France, has he not?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, like you said, like you've got some quality guys there with Polanski and Palacios and obviously Lozer as well. Isn't Lozer going to Italy next year?
I believe he is. Yeah.
So yeah,
I couldn't tell you where, but
let's look this up on good old. He's going to Milan. So
nice. I love that pickup. Yeah, he's absolutely good enough. Really, really powerful player.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that like Lozer is going to be able to step in big time now that Soleil is gone.
Their best middle now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I believe another player, I think actually FIVB did a good job. They had like this article, top 5 players to watch at VNL.
Mm-hmm.
There's this guy, Manuel Armoa, I believe was the player, who I remember seeing at a couple of youth competitions as well.
Okay.
I think is good. Yeah. Best outside at World Championships U21 2021. So another potential next gen player to watch on Argentina, Manuel Armoa. Okay.
He's got
Do I have any other teams? Yeah, he does. I have another player, one more team in tier 3, kind of like the lower end playoff teams, and this is kind of a tough one. They were like I was considering putting them up, but I put Slovenia down here. Yeah, obviously an incredible team. Beat Poland at Eurovolleyball. I've spent more time seeing them play so much. But I don't know. I think they're definitely like getting older. I mean, you have guys like Alan Payank and Tina Arnaut who are definitely, and Dan Vincent, definitely getting on the older side of things. But
okay, continue. You finish your thought first, and then I'm going to.
For those of you listening,
bring up like the most obvious thing ever. But no, continue.
Are you saying that Rock Maz is just going to replace Tina Arnaut easily?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess that was my question. Maybe this is a stupid question actually. Now that I'm seeing this, my question was who's gonna get knocked off the starting lineup for Rock. So I guess you already answered that.
I do think it would be like it would be between like Earnout and Chabul, right?
Yeah. So which one of those?
I would knock off Earnout in a heartbeat.
Do you think Earnout is willing to accept that? I mean, he's like the face of Slovenian volleyball. He's like
Not anymore.
like huge political figure. Behind the scenes, he is still though. He's a like big political figure in Slovenian volleyball. He's out there at all the gala events. He's there. I don't know. He's definitely like the captain, most important player in Slovenian volleyball.
Okay.
Is Tina Arnott going to accept getting knocked off?
I'm not sure. Rob agrees with you in the chat and says that Slovenia will not recreate the same magical run as the last couple of years. May I remind you guys that Slovenia's magical run has been going back all the way to like 2015? Like, how many times have they beaten Poland at the European Championships? How many times have they been that other team, And
at the European Championships, how do they do in World Championships?
Okay, I mean, hey, that happens sometimes, right? But they have more positive results than negative results. Right?
Oh, so like, fantastic team. That's why I have them in the top 5 of my rankings. But I don't think
is that where we are now? Top 5?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, I agree with that.
But
that's where I would have. That's where I have
Serbia,
them as well.
Argentina, USA, rather than my next couple teams. But I think Rock Mazit, like there's if they don't play him as much as he wants, that's insane to me. Like he is like could be one of the best players on this tournament. Like I'd be very surprised if he doesn't lead the entire tournament in scoring. I mean, a lot of people saw him last year, but he was on the bench a lot of games last year, and like I don't know, you know how I feel about him.
Yeah, but he also just had the season that he just had, right?
Where by the way, he was basically going toe to toe with Leon the entire season.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of point scoring efficiency. So at 1 years old. So
and he's correct me if I'm wrong, but he's signed to go back to.
Verona, yeah.
He's signed to go. I love that. I actually love that. He's staying with
the team. I like it. Yeah, I agree. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Top 4. I have 2 more tiers left. Tier 2. I have 2 teams.
You have 2 more tiers left. Okay, interesting.
2 more tiers left because I think there's a delineation between these teams.
Okay.
I had. Oh, this is kind of tough up here though. I had Italy as my next team. European Championships. Beat Slovenia 2021. Did pretty well last at the Olympics. Like obviously very new roster. But these young guys have proven themselves both in Italian team and of course with Trentino last year. With Spertoli, Lavia, Micheletto. Great team. However, here's my question, Everett. Do you still believe in Micheletto as your absolutely number 1 offensive superstar, no questions asked, after his performance these last 2 months?
Yes, but not right away. Like I think he's the future, However, I do think that for this VNL, they need to go elsewhere, right? They have Ivan Zaitsev who wants to be on that roster. So you do have
bandwagoner.
You do have a legitimate opposite, right? To go on the right side. Did Pinali? I don't think Pinali made this roster, right? Oh no, he did.
Really?
Giulio Pinali did make this roster. Sure. So you do have that opposite, and you don't need to go with a 3-hitter system, right?
What about Stefani? Would you like? I might.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. I completely forgot about Stefani, but I'm 100% on the Tommaso Stefani train. So you have you have legitimate. Yeah. Oh, Yuri Romano even more. Actually, I rate Yuri Romano the highest, especially about how he because the way he came in. With last year European Championship,
yeah, because he's a 6-man, right? He's Jamal Crawford. He's coming off the bench.
Yeah. So, but I think that right now with Italy, you have such a plethora of young talent, and that Micheletto is your ace. He's your diamond. He's that golden jewel that you have. 100% long term, absolutely. Right. I think that right now what we saw the breakdown in recent times is just pure and total fatigue, right? It's a guy who has done a lot at a young age and it's all coming down onto him, right? But you've got all of these other young guys. You've got Patolo, you've got Ricine, you've got Lavia. Okay.
Go
Oh no,
on.
you Arreste Cavuto, right? Like
Oh.
you've got guys there
no.
who can play, right?
Okay.
So I think that you want to be able to give Micheletto a bit of a chance.
Okay. I like Italy, but you're right. Micheletto, I hope they don't even bring him to the first leg, because that dude needs a break. It needs to like go to the weight room this summer. Like honestly, like if I was Italy, I would just tell him to skip VNL and just like, hey, just go rest for like 2 weeks and then just like hit the gym for like 6 weeks.
You're not wrong though,
because he needs that. He needs to build that strength.
He does need to build that strength.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not at that level in volleyball yet. Okay, next one. France. I had in my other tier 2 team. Obviously, Olympic champions. A bit of a Cinderella run. Let's be honest. Nobody was predicting France to win that.
But no one ever
predicted
France to win
they were the best
anything.
team. They were the best team of the Olympics, and I definitely would not argue with that. However, so I don't even know if I want to talk about the roster that much, because like we know everyone here. Potentially there could be some very good young players, but if I'm France, I'm thinking about obviously the 2024 Olympics taking place in Paris. There's 4 players here who I'm like, are they going to make the next run? Nicholas Lagov, Jenny Grumenikov, Irvin Engapet, Benjamin Toniutti. In 2024, are those guys going to be too old to play Olympics?
Ooh, I think Grumenikov can definitely be there. Obviously, he's libero. He doesn't have the same toll on his body. Irvin Engapeth as well, mostly because his ego won't let him not be there.
And he did play pretty well last year.
Yeah, I mean he's still got it.
Yeah.
Nicholas Lagov, that's kind of where I'm starting to wonder if he's going to be there.
Who wasn't getting contracts in Italy and like was kind of on the downswing, but then I mean, he was such a key part of that Olympic team.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that we've talked about it before, that the difference between club and international, right, like national team season, is that club is very like athletic dependent, right? The team that has the best athletes is going to win, right? I think that's changing a little bit now that we're seeing these teams who are starting to keep players for longer and longer, and it's not just these like 1 year build, like rent teams almost. But in international play, it's so dialed down to style and scouting and how you work together as a unit, right? That Le Goff is so much more valuable within that French system that he is kind of anywhere else, right? Because he can't just, he's got so much more like knowledge than just straight up his straight up physicality.
All right. So you're saying Le Goff off. What about Toniutti?
I still think Toniutti will be there, yeah, because I don't think that they have like obviously they have Brizard, but I don't see like Raphael Correa or Thomas Gill. I don't know who Thomas Gill is. I don't see Correa like stepping up and being better than either of those guys. So unless a young guy comes in, I think you're going to go with Toniutti and Brizard again.
Okay, so that's tier 2. I mean, tier 1, pretty obvious. 2 teams that match up seemingly in every final of every world event right now. I had Poland second though, behind Brazil. I mean, both these teams, that's pretty much even for me. Poland's we all know like how good they are. I guess my only concern is like, yeah, again, like they have so many good outside hitters, so it almost doesn't even matter. But yeah, Leon is having a bit of a down season right now. He had that one incredible game in the finals, but other than that, he hasn't looked like the ultimate, like, no questions asked best player in the world recently.
But you know who has been?
Kamil Semeniuk.
Exactly. I need to remind you of his performance like nary a week ago, right? Like on this past Sunday. Like that was an all-time performance. And I think we need to start having that extended conversation about Kamil Semeniuk.
It's not like Semeniuk's doing that every game. It's not like he's doing that every game. He had 36% efficiency on the year, which is good, but it's not like prime Leon hitting like 40 4% efficiency in the Italian league, scoring like 300 points a season, right?
Okay, you had me there. Obviously, you get me with the stats, and I can't disagree with the stats. So you have disarmed me a little bit. However, I still think that Semenya, like the depth of that roster can fight with anyone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Leon obviously is that guy, but this is like they're like the the 2019 Raptors, right? Kawhi doesn't need to be around for them to win, right? So yeah, like you're telling me that if you've got Kaczmarek, Slivka, and Semeniuk out there, you've got the the Zaxa 3 that you're not confident to take on any team in the world, like Brazil included, right? Like with Janus setting the ball, and you've got
Well, that's the biggest thing this year, isn't it?
the 100%.
Marcin Giannis, who like pretty much set just about as well as Taniuti running that Zax offense. Had an incredible year, won everything, won the Polish league, won the super finals. Like, to me, I mean, of course there should be no question that he's starting. Do you think there's still people that would want like Drizzer or Lomash? I don't think Drizzer's even on the roster, so
He's not.
like there's no question Gregor's Lomash versus Marcin Giannis.
No, absolutely not. Janusz has just led a team to a Champions League. He led a team to the Plus Liga in his first year on the team, stepping in, and like honestly, he stepped into the shoes of a legend and one upped him by taking home the Plus Liga as well, right? So yeah, 100%. This is 100% Martin Janusz's job. And he's going to be the one to lead them. And to be honest, I'm flipping this roster, this ranking. I think Poland's going to take it all, right? I think that you lose the dead weight of Druzga and Kubiak, and you're going to bring in Semeniuk. You're going to bring in Janusz. You don't have Vital Heinen anymore. You've got Nikola Grbic. You've taken care of all your issues. You've got two potentially great liberos with Satorsky and Papachak. Like this team is ready to roll.
Okay, a question for you. Who's starting in the middle?
Kokonowski and Huber if he's healthy. But I don't think he will be. So instead they're going to go to Bieniek.
So you'd start Huber over Bieniek.
Yes. Okay. Ooh. Actually, offensively, yes. Yeah,
yes. Definitely. And serving. I mean, for me, I would start Bieniek just for the serve. Because I actually think Huber's almost as good offensively and obviously a much better blocker. But Huber's serve kind of worries me a little bit, to be honest.
It is a little...
It's a little dinky-danky.
Yeah, it's a little dinky. But... Yeah. To be honest, I need to see the connection between Janusz and Bieniek.
Fair enough.
Right, because we know the connection with Huber is there.
All right, last team, a team that I still get Brazilian fans like getting mad at me for not picking them. Every like month, I get like a Brazilian fan on my like 2018 YouTube video being like, "You put Brazil way too low. Like we want." Like anyway, Brazil. My pick to win. They have everything. They have veterans. They have a lot of talented young players. They have, incredible chemistry. Not too many questions to ask about this team. We've been over this before. A couple of young players, including another player on the FIVB to watch list. I think his name is Adriano Javier. Definitely another really talented player to come up. But my question for you, Everett, with Brazil, is Cachopa the unquestioned starter of this team now?
No.
Okay, that's
because let's be honest. Are you?
But Cachopa just had his best season of his career. Bruno had was really not good in Modena. Had by far his worst professional year.
He did have his by far worst professional year. It was a flop in a lot of ways, but you're still talking about Bruno. I don't care who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick up. No one's starting above Tom Brady, right? And even if you do, even if they do start Cachopa, and I do think they will, they probably will start Cachopa more than they start Bruno. You always know that Papa Bruno is sitting there, ready to come in at any time. And you know that he's ready to come in and to show you up at any point.
What do you think the odds are Bruno goes to coaching? 80%?
No, he's on the roster for Modena.
No, I'm saying after.
Oh, yeah. Well, but yeah, absolutely. Like I could see him not just being like, like I don't want to be like my dad, but I could also see him, like
Fair enough.
it's not like you're asking me something that like if I knew him personally, maybe I could answer, but this is just
Bruno's like the one player who like left in my volleyball career who I haven't met, who I still really want to get a chance to talk to.
fair enough. One thing let me double check here because I'm pretty sure it was in one of the comments from one of our past videos when we were talking about so apparently Wallace is, even though he's on the roster, he's not going to be playing at all.
Okay, good, because you know where I'm going with this. I want to see some Darlin Souza out there.
So, but yeah, apparently
that's not too surprising, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. Like take this whole preview with a grain of salt, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of those players who are on the roster just because, like, just in case kind of thing, but are not going to be there.
Yeah. Apparently, Dalzado is going to be a guy to watch too. I'm just purely basing this off of comments on the videos in the past.
That's where you get the best scouting. Is
absolutely
somebody from the actual country Brazil, who's like very, very familiar with the landscape, like has watched like the youth games, follows their national team intensely. That's where we always get the best information. Like it's too hard for guys like us to follow every single like little minutia.
Oh no, wait, sorry, not Dalzado. Dalzado's the coach. I'm an idiot. It's Guilherme Voss.
Did we not talk about Guilherme Voss isn't on the roster in our last preview because he plays for Hawaii?
You're right. Yeah.
No, so we talked about that last time, how he wasn't on the roster. Unless like sometimes with the Brazilians, like they have like a different name on the roster.
Yeah, maybe.
We know them as.
Okay, yeah. This guy clearly isn't that reliable with his with his information here.
But okay, so maybe I'm not off base though. Maybe there's another reason why he's not on the roster. Because for me, like he was part of the youth national team for Brazil. Like he's one of the best players in the NCAA champions. Like it's a bit strange that he's not on the roster.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but Brazil is still Brazil. They still have their guys, but I think that they're missing too many pieces. Leal is starting to get old. Lucarelli, we'll see how he does. But yeah, I don't know. I still think Poland's gonna take it.
Fair enough, but yeah, Poland and winning a big tournament has not happened in a long time.
What are you talking about? They won world championships in 2018.
2018, that's a long time ago now, Britt.
But that's, I mean, they won two world championships in the past decade. And
so I'll pick Poland. I'm picking Poland to win the world championships and nothing else. Everett, anything else you want to talk about before we call it a podcast here?
No, I think we're good. We aren't going to do hot takes anymore.
No, I think we have one more podcast to get in before the men start, so we can save our hot takes and bold predictions for next Friday.
Okay, sounds good.
So stay tuned, everyone. Stay tuned. Don't miss 5-1 volleyball next Friday. For Everett's clearly got some hot takes he wants to get out here, so we'll be excited for that. VNL starting June 7th on the men's side. Of course, you can watch the women's even sooner. I will be watching the Canadian women with a lot of intensity this year.
Wednesday, let's go.
Let's go. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Everett, thank you once again for joining. Enjoy your weekend. The one weekend off of volleyball this year. Go outside. Go, play some volleyball.
I'm going to go work.
Talk to you guys next time.
All right. Peace.